Well, hello friends. Welcome back to the program. Today we are going to work on the profiler in Serenity, and I would like to improve the multi-process profile interface. So let's start by just grabbing a multi-process profile. So we'll profile all processes in the system, open a browser, go to the project website, scroll up and down, maybe resize a bit, close it and stop profiling. So now we have a profile right here. We'll just save that for our own needs and open it up here. So at the moment, we have a timeline view up here that shows the entire profile that we captured. And down here, Gunnar has added this list where we can choose which process to focus on. So web content, for example, now we only see samples from the web content process down here. We can also switch that to browser, and then we only see browser. So I think what I want to do is take this timeline here and split it up so that we have one timeline per process, so that you can sort of visually see what was happening. Because when we recorded now, I opened the browser, opened SerenityOS.org, resized around and stuff, right? And this timeline here doesn't really tell that story. Like the fact that this is the browser opening, this is the web page loading, and this is a resize, presumably. But if we could see every process, then we could see that here we are launching the browser, and then here we're talking to the request server, probably talking to an image decoder, that kind of stuff. And probably here we got browser and Windows server coordinating for the resize. And if we could see every process separately, I think it would make a much clearer picture of what's actually going on in the profile. Anyway, so what I want to do is I want to break this timeline up into just a stack of all the timelines, one for each process that we have in this profile. And maybe on the left-hand side of each one, we would show like, I don't know, like the executable icon, the process name, and the PID. So kind of the same stuff that we have here plus the icon. And yeah, I guess that's sort of what I want to do first of all. So in this case here, we have like over 30 processes in this profile. So there's going to be quite a lot of vertical space for this thing. So we're going to put it into a scrollable container so that we don't have to make the window gigantic to support all this. But let's just go one step at a time here. So first thing we need, I guess, let's just figure out how to put two of these profiles together in the UI. So that would be in profiler main, because the scrollable container widget I added a new thing for this yesterday, but I have not actually used it for anything yet. I just added this yesterday because I knew I wanted to work on this thing. So here is a fresh thing. The way it works is you just create this and then you call set widget on it. You give it a widget, and then it sort of provides a scrollable view onto that widget. I think that will be just exactly what we need for this. So here is where we add the profile timeline widget. So let's add a scrollable container widget in between. Yeah. Scrollable container is, okay, sure. Actually, I guess that should be a child of the main widget, let's say. That's fine. And then we don't want to do this anymore, but instead we want to put the profile timeline widget inside the scrollable container. So we can't just put the profile timeline widget as a child of the scrollable container, but rather we have to make a sort of a canvas widget that we will then scroll around inside the scrollable container. So I guess we'll call this something like the timelines widget. So we'll just make an empty GUI widget and timelines widget add. Yeah, we'll do this, and then we'll add 2 of them, maybe even 3. And then finally we can do scrollable container set widget, timelines widget putter. Okay, and then I guess we also need to say set shrink to fit so that the timelines widget will expand to accommodate all of the children that we add to it here. So let's just see how that goes. Okay, so that didn't go quite right. Oh shoot, wait, I have to set a layout on the timelines widget. Set layout, vertical box layout, please. Yeah, okay, so something like this. And then you can see actually here the scrollable container widget doing its thing, just making these things scrollable. And now actually it's kind of weird that the timeline scales. I think if we make this scrollable, we don't have to have a scalable timeline anymore. So we could actually, I mean, we could have it scalable, but like through a scale factor instead. It wouldn't auto size to the window width. So why does it do that currently? Because it has a fixed height, but not a fixed width. Okay, so what if we just did like set fixed width is profile length in milliseconds divided by 10. I don't know, just something. So like 1 pixel per 100 milliseconds, or per 10 milliseconds. That's kind of cool, I guess. Yeah, and then we would have some sort of, I don't know, like control mouse wheel or something like that to like zoom the view. But yeah, so this basic stuff here is working nicely. Scrollable container widget, I think I'm really happy I added that. There have been a couple of times when I wanted something like it and we didn't have it, so I just sort of worked around it. But I think this is going to help us build some quite interesting UIs, starting with this one. So of course now we have 3 profile timeline widgets, but they all show the same info. So next step would be also like this sort of the vertical cursor here. I think it could be like spread across all of these. It doesn't need to cut into only one of them. I think ideally the selection would be global. So I'm not exactly sure actually. We'll figure things out one thing at a time. For now, I guess we can leave it with independent selections, but I think ultimately it might be nicer to have a global selection. Maybe it's useful sometimes to be able to like select this here and then this here. Although I'm not exactly sure why that's useful. If you could compare and contrast maybe, but let's not get too carried away. So, okay, so let's start by compressing these a little bit. So I think they're way too tall, especially if you're going to have 1 per PID. So let's bring it down to say 36 or something like that. Maybe 40, like it was 80 before, right? So half, 40. 40 also gives us ample space for a little thingy that shows the process ID and the icon and stuff. So I'd like to have those on the left. And I would like those to not scroll. It's actually a little bit complicated if I think about that. So how do we do that? We'll figure something out. So I guess what I'm talking about is I would like to have sort of a header like you have in a spreadsheet. Where do we have the spreadsheet? You know how this, if you put something here, then the 3-row header stays in place even though you scroll, right? I would like to have something like that for the process name and stuff. Okay, let me not get stuck on these thoughts. Let's add a process filter to these and then add one per process. We'll start with that. So profile and maybe PID. So you have to specify which PID. And PID. Yeah, we'll just put that here next to the profile. Cool. And then when we paint, we should only show events from our PID. So at that point, we just simply have to filter here. So like if event PID is not and PID, continue. Shadows a local variable. Ooh, oops. Shadows that thing. Sure. Yeah, that's not the end of the world. Although I've been thinking maybe we should try to compile with wshadow, because local shadowing is kind of a stupid feature. Or like it's kind of a silly foot gun to have. There have been some instances. We had a shadowing issue recently, although it was not a local variable shadowing, but like rather a subclass shadowing the member of a base class. Okay, so I need to go to main and instantiate these with PIDs. So do we have a profile? Profile processes. Okay, well, let's iterate them, I guess. What does a process have? Has a PID. Cool. I didn't even know that, just using autocomplete to tell me what to do. There we go. So, oh, and I think we can actually set this earlier on here, so that cleans that up quite nice. Maybe we don't have to instantiate this until later. Makes that a little bit easier as well. Okay, so now we have one per process, presumably. I think these might be two of the same thread. I mean, two threads in the same process. That's why we're seeing it that way. Wait, could that be the case? Why are they? It's suspicious that they're identical. Actually, we have a lot of identical ones. That is weird. What is going on with that? We should probably show the PID in the little description so we can tell what's what. Oops. Okay, so let's draw text for that. PID. I mean, that was easy. Okay. Yeah, PID 30, PID 30. So we have actually, seems like we have process objects for the same PID twice. What is 30? What is 30 normally? Well, we know the executable, so we could print that out. I wonder why we have... Okay, well, let's not sweat too much about this, but let us make sure that we pass in the process, the whole process object here instead of just the PID, because I think the process thing will stick around, right? It's like yeah, it will hang around in the profile object forever. So we can safely take a reference to that. So let's do that. Process, class process, cool. Now we will be way better informed. So each profile timeline widget will have a process pointer. Maybe we should we take that by const reference? Maybe we don't need to change anything about process. Yeah, let's do that. Let's be good boys. We don't need to mutate that thing. Okay, and then mProcess PID, sure. Oh, that's just a member. Okay, so here let's just say like the name paren PID paren or executable rather. Just spacing out. Okay. So what is that 30? Taskbar and browse. Oh, shoot, look at that. Okay, so I launched the browser from here. So these are both PID 30, but because of exec, they are considered two distinct processes, I guess. So I think taskbar is like, taskbar forks becomes PID 30, and then exec's browser. Likewise, you can see here system server forks from 31 and becomes request server and so on. That's why they're showing up like that. So that's interesting. So really, like, we only care about the post, or do we only care about the post exec part? I kind of want to merge these, but at the same time, I kind of don't want to. This is so weird. I guess I should use the time range filter that that we have on the process. So every process object has a start valid, end valid, and that tells you the, I think it's the like the performance event index range that this process is relevant for. So when you exec, then we create a new process object. But so now we have two process objects with the same PID, and the previous one stops being valid and the new one starts being valid, but they do have the same PID. So we have to just account for that by looking at start valid, end valid. So just, I think that's just a paint time thing. We'll just filter on that here. So like if event, oh, do we know the index actually? Hold on, how does that work? Start valid, oh, it's a timestamp. Oh, event timestamp? Okay. I thought it was the index, but I guess it's the timestamp. That makes more sense. So start start valid, and or if it's okay, have to do some basic comparison here. Gotta focus. End valid. I don't know if that's inclusive or not. Timestamp valid at. Oh, well, that's helpful. Oh, I should have used that. So if mProcess valid at event timestamp no, wait. I'm trying to use that cline boom thing. Oh, that's so cool. I love this. I'm still getting used to it, that you can type like no, press enter, and it puts the exclamation point all the way back there. Very neat to negate the preceding expression. The things that they think of. Okay, so now that we do that, we should see for like PID30. Right, so we see taskbar like barely has anything going on. It's really just like, well, I guess whatever's going on before here. So just some exec frame probably. It's the tiniest bit of exec. What is it doing? Yeah, I'm not really sure. Okay. So this looks kind of sane. I don't know if I love this look. Let me remind myself, because I feel like Instruments macOS looks quite nice, but I don't know if that would fit our aesthetic. I just see some screenshots. Or I remember it looking nice, but it's like, it looks nice on the Mac. I mean, this would not fit verbatim on our desktop, that's for sure. Quite gauche indeed. Gauche, how do you say that? But this is sort of the basic idea of what I'm looking for, right? Like, so you have these headers here on the left and your timeline on the right. And in our case, we have like one per process, but here it's like one per event type. But ignoring that, would be cool if you could also filter which processes are visible, and if it could automatically just hide any process that does not have any events, because we don't need to look at those. Maybe we could figure that out right away, actually, because that would make this look a lot nicer. So let's see. We just want to count the number of events for a given process. Can we, let's see. How do we do that? I guess we'll do something like this. So profile for each event in filter range. No, that's not what I want. I want I want to do this. Process PID and process is valid at event timestamp. If event count. So if we don't have events, continue. Okay, let's see what that does to the setup. Okay, well, we got quite a bit fewer things. So these are only the processes that actually ran something inside of the time window of the profile. So it's a bit better. Instead of all like 40 of them. Okay. So what do we do next? I want to. I think I want this cursor to move in all of them at the same time somehow. So, and I also want to get rid of the text inside of each one because that doesn't follow scroll anyway. And maybe we should make these look a bit different, like have like a white background, for example, could look really sweet. So profile timeline widget. Where do we fill it? Fill rect. Oh, it just fills with background. Okay, well, we'll say the background role is color role base. No, is that not what that's called? I think maybe I need to include. Yeah, there we go. And let's see. I think we don't want these to be frames anymore. Or at the very least, we want them to look a bit different. So we'll do a 1 thick frame instead. Okay, starting to look a bit interesting. There's definitely more towards what I'm looking for. Okay. And then let's see if we can make this global cursor thingy. So how would that work? Or actually, let's do commits before we get carried away here. So let's change the appearance after we do this. Yeah, so for now, we'll just commit these changes that we have. Profiler. Oops. Gotta get that clank format. Profiler. Show one timeline per process. Instead of smashing together all these samples, single timeline. And I have this bar here that shows the 72 character thing, how much space we have. Make one per process and put them all in a scrollable container widget. This makes it much more visible what this makes much easier to see what was going, or when, which programs were active and when. Yeah. Or processes, let's say. no timeline is displayed for processes with 0 samples in the profile. Yes, so that's pretty neat. So let's commit that. All right, and then let's do those appearance changes. So actually, what would it look like without the frame thickness change? Let's just look to see what that's like. It feels like these are supposed to be like resizable and stuff, and I don't know. I think it looks awkward with this thick frame around each thing. So what would it be like if we had no frame, actually? That's a little too flat. I guess 1 is a good compromise. Okay, so let's commit that. Tweak timeline widget appearance. Thin out the use a thinner frame and color roll base for the background roll. Yeah, I think that's a good look. At least better than what we had before, and we can iterate on this. Okay, so now about that cursor thing. So I guess the cursor is currently like hover time right here probably. So maybe we want some kind of like a selection controller or something. Who should control that? I mean, we could put the info in the profile, but that feels like weird factoring. Maybe we should have a widget that's like the parent. Maybe the parent should be a specialized widget that has a little bit of smarts. That might be interesting, actually. Although it is scrollable. The scrollable thing, I don't know if the scrollable container widget is gonna turn out to be like too simplistic for what I want here, because I do want those fixed headers. And scrollable container widget does not have a way to do that. Although there's definitely some way that we could hack that by just like putting those here and then making them move along with the scroll offset. So maybe that's what we'll do. Okay. Let's not plan ahead too much. Let's just make a new widget for the timeline view, let's call it. Timeline view. Okay. So that would be from this year. So this is going to be that widget that we shift around in the scrollable container. So it will inherit from GUI widget. Timeline view. Sure. And we want this thing to have the cursor, so the time cursor or whatever. So that was currently the hover time, select start end time. So we'll take all of these things and just yoink those and put them here. And then we'll do this is selecting. Yeah, I mean, nothing fancy at all. Okay, and when we instantiate these, well, let's do one thing at a time, actually. And then I was thinking for these, we will pass the timeline view to the timeline widget. So timeline view, we'll just have a pointer to it. We'll call it the view. Yeah, because then we're like a child inside of that thing. So maybe timeline widget is not the best name, but it should be called something like a timeline item or timeline track, maybe. But let's not think about that right now, but instead make sure that we pass in the timeline view correctly. So here, this will rename to timeline view. Okay, and you don't like that because, wait, why not? Because I forgot to inherit something. That's very silly. Yeah, so that's good. And we can actually do the stuff inside the timeline view, so it doesn't need to know about that. So something like that. Cool and double cool. And triple cool. Box layout. Sure. So now we have this, and then we just need to teach the timeline widgets to look at the hover time from their parent, from the view. Yes, let's do it that way, and there we go. Okay, sure. So view, select start time. Yeah, because we still want the cursor to show up in each track. I think that will make it much more intuitive to use the cursor if it shows up in all the tracks. And yeah, so then we should also, I guess we should also allow the tracks to perform the, to update all of these things. So like set selecting, and let's use a badge here. So Class process timeline profile timeline widget. I'm itching to rename this class to timeline track, but one thing at a time. Set selecting. Yeah, so we're just going to do this. Sure. Set selecting a badge and true. This feels a little hackish, but I think it's probably okay. That especially felt hackish. Maybe this could be encapsulated into something like start selecting or something like that. But I mean, let's just keep this mechanical for now. So don't have to think too much. Set select end time. There we go. If view is selecting, then view set select end time. Okay, sure. We're almost there. Okay. Profile timeline widget. I'm not passing in the parent. Let's do that. Timeline view. Boom. Okay, let's see how this goes. Oh shoot, we need to make sure they all get updated. Otherwise, because they are in sync, it's just not repainting. Because look, if I force a repaint, then you see that they're all snapped to the same place. So that's a little bit awkward, but I guess what we could do is simply, if we just encapsulate these things I was gonna say, so like, we could do this. It's kind of goofy, just as a hack for now. Because the updates should be coalesced anyway, but yeah, so that's kind of cool. And then when you select, look at that. That's pretty cool. Okay. So now this is obviously super redundant information to have this in all of them, so we should get rid of that. But let's commit this stuff first. So oh, wait. I am trying to use the CLine commit interface more. For many reasons, like I like it, and I feel like I have a better view of what I'm doing while I'm using it. But at the same time, muscle memory is kind of, it's hard to fight muscle memory sometimes. But I do want to use this instead, especially since it has spell checking, which I really appreciate. So now add timeline view widget to hold all, and make the cursor global. Okay, so there's no longer a cursor in each process timeline. Instead, the timeline or the parent widget keeps track of it along with the selection, and it all moves in sync. That's really neat. All right, and then I wanted to rename this other class here, so let's do that now before it gets later. So let's rename it to timeline track widget. Is that what I wanted? Or just timeline track? Timeline track is good. Put one of those there for good measure. Yeah, and then we'll commit that. Profile timeline widget, timeline track. Okay, and then let's think about actually what we want to do with the UI. So where do we put the sort of the time, the hover, the cursor info and selection info? I was thinking about instruments. So in instruments, if I recall correctly, it shows up here while you're selecting or something like that. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't remember exactly. Here's a number here. I don't know what that means. Don't remember. But what we could do, we could use a status bar. Actually, this is like prime status bar stuff. That's probably what we should do. Just it's nice for programs to have a status bar anyway, so let's add a status bar. Okay, so the very last thing we do, here, let's say status bar is main widget add GUI status bar. And then timeline view on, let's say on cursor change. Oh, wait, is that one of those? It's probably one of those. Set text. And then here we'll put like, I don't know, what did we put? Time. Well, we'll put whatever we had previously in the timeline track thing. So this string right here. So let's see, folder, and instead of M process, that doesn't go there, right? So, oh, what is the normalized hover time? We need all this info. Okay, so now syntax highlighting has crapped out on me, so I don't know why this happens sometimes. But it does, and it's a bit irritating. So let's just restart CLine and get rid of that. Okay. Bit weird. Right, so let's go ahead and add that hook. Or let's call it on selection change maybe. Okay. We can simplify this a bit. Oh, look, the syntax highlighting has crapped out again. I don't know what causes this. It is weird. I feel like it happens when I edit code inside of a lambda sometimes. And my understanding is that it's clang-d that crashes. Maybe I can check that actually. Worker. I mean, I don't know who's crashing, but I assume it's clang-d. Anyway. Builder string. Well, what's a clamp timestamp? Okay, it's this. End of trace. There's so much stuff. Okay, this is kind of badly factored, I have to say. I don't love what I'm doing here. Yeah, we need to factor this better, I think, eventually, but for now it's probably fine. So we'll do something like this, and we're almost good here. So we just need to fix mProfile to say profile. And then we need to actually call this hook that we created. So when somebody does, let's see. Probably we don't need to update on that one actually. Okay, this is super crufty the way I'm doing it now, but just get a general feel for it. Yeah, so now you can see it at the bottom here. Krook, krook, krook. That's pretty decent. Also, we should probably put these things into some kind of splitter so that you can resize. But it's a start. Yeah, so let's get rid of the text in there. And the timeline track. So if we don't need to render the, well, we don't need to render the time and selection parts. We do still want to render the part with the executable name for now. And this we can do with formatted. Okay. Yeah, that's kind of okay. Don't need that comma. Yeah, so now I switch to top functions, which is a bit slower because it has to do a lot of tree traversal. So when you're selecting now, it's kind of laggy, but let's get out of top functions. It's fine. This is actually really, really nice. I like this quite a bit. It feels like a huge improvement. What do we want to do next? This thing here, I mean, the process selection thingy, I feel a bit like it should probably work a bit differently. I think maybe we don't even need this if you could like, if we had some kind of a banner or header thingy here, and you could click on a process to focus it, and that would cause it to show up down here or something like that. Then we wouldn't need this combo box here. But let's leave it for now. And let's see if we can create some kind of a header. Although, actually, the first thing I want to do is just clean up the factoring here because things got a little bit disgusting. So what was I even doing here? Start of trees. Because I was just thinking that we could have the, or maybe this is not the end of the world actually. Maybe it's okay for now. Let's not sweat too much about that particular factoring, because I was thinking we could put this logic into the timeline view, but at the same time, it doesn't have to be in the timeline view. Like, it's perfectly fine for this code right here to like take some values out of it and compute a nice text for the status bar. So, it's probably okay. Add a status bar and show the timeline selection info in it. Yes. Are we good? We're good. Okay, so how the heck do we make these headers? I guess this is I mean, this is already going to make it incompatible with scrollable container widget, I think. Maybe I should just bite the bullet and make a custom thing, like copy this and make a custom one, or do I make a general mechanism for attaching a fixed header that moves vertically but not horizontally? I don't know. I feel like that's too specific to make sense here, and this thing is so nice and simple now, so I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate this thing, and then if it turns out to be more general than I thought, then we can put it back into libGUI somehow. But so much for my reusable scrollable container widget. Although there are many other places where we want to use this, so, and they don't need headers. So it's not a bad idea. It's just that the first use case I had in mind immediately became a little too complex for it. So we'll copy these into userland DevTools Profiler. And then we'll call those something like timeline container, let's say. This almost feels like it should be part of the timeline view at this point. Maybe the timeline view should do all this. Well, no. Let's do Okay, maybe I'll end up regretting this particular GUI architecture. We'll see. It won't be too difficult to fix it up. Wait, this doesn't look right. So we'll just do this, this, and that. Let's see how this goes. Okay. Sure. So this is the, now we're going to have two things that scroll up and down, basically. So we want the, instead of just having widget, we want to have, we'll call it the timeline container, yeah. Set view. Or maybe they should just be provided to the constructor, actually. Timeline view. And the timeline header container. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. Am I overthinking this? Maybe I'm overthinking this. Now I'm wondering, what if we would just put the headers on the left of the scrollable container widget, and then just when the scrollable container widget scrolls, we would just also scroll the thing on the left? Maybe that's enough. The scroll bar would look a bit awkward because it would not span all the way from the left of the headers. The horizontal scroll bar would start on the right of the headers. That would be a bit weird. So if you, let's look at the spreadsheet app. So in the spreadsheet app, yeah, so like the scroll bar right here, it starts at the same pixel as these row headers. Let me look at spreadsheet here. Yeah, right. So you can barely see it, but it starts like within the row headers. Yeah, okay, let's move forward with this concept and see how it goes. So for every one of these that we add, we also add timeline header container, add, and here we just need to add the process. Timeline header, yeah, so we'll make some kind of a goofy widget for that. And we'll make it a vertical box layout. There's definitely some better way to express this, but it's not obvious to me at the moment how to do this with our current tool set. So sometimes you have to experiment. Okay, and then timeline header, let's just timeline header. Okay, class process, class timeline header, public. Let's say it's a GUI frame, perhaps. And here we'll just take the process. Something like that. And oh, and it needs a paint event. Sure. Okay. And then why am I not getting syntax highlighting? It's my biggest issue with CLine. Oh, I guess because, is it because of this? Reload CMake project? That was the issue. Cool. There we go. Namespace needs to be closed. Sure. So GUI frame paint event first of all. And let's set a different frame shadow or frame shape here. So like a panel. A raised panel. It's not something that we do very often, but let's do it. And then I guess let's just like draw text, frame inner rect. Process executable. I don't know. Graphics, text alignment, center, right, left. I don't know. Let's just see what happens. Oh, and we needed to pass it something else. Timeline container, timeline header. Oh, okay. Step 1, include your files. And then we also changed this one to take the timeline view and the header container. Okay. Was that how we set it up? Header container first. Oops. Yep. Don't need that. Don't need that. Okay, sure. Okay, so now we are getting these things. Now we just need to add them as children to this guy. So header container, add child, timeline view. Let's make sure we also have pointers to them, I think. And then we also need to move them back so that they end up behind the scroll bars, not in front of them. Otherwise, they would be up top. That would look goofy. Okay, sure. And we can get rid of that. Okay. So the timeline view is easy to move, and actually the header container is also easy to move. We just don't move it horizontally, so it stays at 0, moves vertically, and the timeline view horizontal position is going to be header container width plus that. I think that makes sense. Okay. And here we have to do layout of the children, sure. They are going to be shrink to fit. They will have layouts. So yeah, we can just be lazy here, actually. Let's see. So basically what happens in the scrollable container widget that we've copied is that we perform widget layout on the children, so the header container and the timeline view in this case. So we do layout on them, and then we ask the layout, hey, if you could decide, how large would you like to be? That's what we are getting here, the preferred size from the widget layout. And that's sort of how the shrink to fit mechanism is implemented. So every widget that performs a layout, you can query that layout, what would be your preferred size? It's kind of handy. So here, we definitely care about the timeline view preferred size, because we're just gonna make it that size. So this is for the timeline view. Yes, and then for the header stuff, we can actually do that after here. So in that case, we only care about, or I guess we care about both left or both width and height. I was just thinking we could hard code the width somehow. Timeline header could have a fixed width of 100, say, or 120. I don't know. 100. Let's start with 100 and see how that goes. Because then we only need to compute that. Or now that I think about it, why don't we hard code the whole size? So it'll be 100 by 40. Because why not? And then the container here only cares about, because we're resizing a container that contains a bunch of headers. So we actually know that it's going to have preferred size. So we can just do this. Oops, and we don't need that thing. So what we want to do is say m header container set preferred size, or set resize preferred size. Is that what we want to do? So all that stuff goes away. Likewise here, preferred size. Okay, so this is actually easier than, because it doesn't have to be so general like the scrollable container widget in libGUI, because we know that the child is always going to be shrink to fit and so on. Okay, so I feel like we got into the weeds here a little bit, just hacking on a new container widget, but okay, so this didn't quite turn out the way I wanted. So I think it's here. For some reason, when I scroll, you can see that it stays, but now everything is behaving really goofy. Also 100 was probably a bit on the narrow side, so let's say 120. But header container widget positions. So the header container should be at x0. Yeah, so why is it not there? Or am I thinking about this stupidly now? Timeline header container. Okay, I definitely didn't do something right here. Why does it go here of all places? Oh, wait, I'm using the wrong thing. That was stupid. Okay. Yeah, that's more what I was expecting. And then we need this thing to actually be painted over the other one. So timeline view should be... Wait, are you not fill with background color? Is that the problem? That's probably the problem. Timeline header container. Set fill with background true. Okay, it's starting to look kind of interesting. Scrolling up and down. Totally works. Something feels weird, but I can't put my finger on what it is. Anyway, I think we're off to a good start here. Maybe these should look more like buttons, I'm thinking, but no, maybe it's okay. But either way, let's get the icon up in here. So timeline header. Let's get that the GUI file icon provider to help us out. And let's also remember the icon. Okay, so icon is GUI file icon provider. Icon for executable. Very good. mprocess executable. Wait. That gives me an icon? Sure. What's wrong with this? Oh, I see. Incomplete return type. Sure. Okay, and then bitmap for size 32. Booyah. Okay. Let's also create a sort of a text. Yeah, let's call it text. We can pre-compute this. So something like that. Process. Oh, and let's strip it down to just the name of the executable. So we use a lexical path for that. Lexical path. Base name and mprocess PID. Cool. And then let's put the icon on the left. So icon rect. Where do we put it? We put it at the frame thickness. So this is the X. It's 40 pixels tall. So it means we have 32 pixel icon, 8 pixels of space. So maybe 4 out, 4 out. Yeah, something like that. Painter Blit. I assume that we'll have an icon, but let's just to be safe. Okay, and then we'll make a text rect as well. So we'll put that at the icon rect dot right plus, I don't know, 6. And the width is my width minus icon rects. I mean, I don't know. It's not terribly important. We'll get this right eventually. We'll probably require a little bit of tweaking here and there, but it's just general feel, yeah. So it's obviously not placed correctly. And I think I just did this in a stupid way. I should have actually just done this. And then I should have used icon rect center within my rect. Or even the frame inner rect, actually. Because, oh, shoot. Yeah, right. So it's 40 pixels tall, but I forgot about the frame thickness, which is 2 pixels. Totally forgot. And then we can skip that. Center vertically within is what I wanted. Okay. It's been a while since we did this kind of open-ended exploratory programming, but it's really fun. I'm really glad that we're doing this. So this is starting to look kind of cool, and I guess I underestimated how much space we were going to need. But we can keep growing it. Also, let's get rid of the text from the timeline track. So timeline track. Don't need you anymore. No more texty. And let me shoot for a much wider. Let's just go for 200 then. Jeez. I mean, maybe the answer is that these should just be resizable, but oh, and it needs to be out from the left, obviously. So here, let's go frame thickness plus 2, say. Starting to look really cool. Now you could imagine like clicking them would just be the equivalent of choosing something here. Not too hard to imagine that. Oh man, that's so cool. A toolbar could be nice in this program. Although I'm not exactly sure yet what we would put in it, so but it would look nice. Man, this is starting to look really awesome. Actually, I really enjoy what we're doing right here. So the original thing I talked about was like, oh, once we have this and you'll be able to see what's happening in the profile. You won't have this like weird, vague picture. So let's look here, right? So remember what I did? I opened the browser, went to SerenityOS.org, and then resized it a bit. So you can see here, like if you look, it's like browser starting up, and then talking to request server, launch WebSocket server starting, launch server starting, web content starting. So all of these, or I guess these were probably already running. Or no, they were not already running because the PID is new. It's newer than browser. So all of these things are starting up. See, this is startup time of each service process. And just from looking at this, you can see that like browser starts here. And then if we select, select a little bit, we can see down here is when web content first starts. So our selection is from this to this. So it's like almost 400 milliseconds. Almost 400 milliseconds from when browser first gets sampled to when web content first gets sampled. So it's probably a very interesting tool for looking into why startup time is the way it is. So now I'm wondering, like, what if you would implicitly select the process if I click on one here? Like it would maybe go bold or something like that. And now I would see samples from that one only. I don't know exactly. But the all processes mode is also interesting. So I do like that one, and we need a way to return to that if we end up doing this. I'm not completely happy with the way it looks. Maybe we can make it look even better somehow. We have panel, box, container. Panel is probably the nicest. Raised plane or sunken. Yeah, I'm kind of thinking like if they should look like buttons, but this is probably the nicest look. But if you look at the timeline track, what if we didn't render the frame on the track? I just gotta mess with this a bit to see if we can. Yeah, because the thing that weirds me out is that like, if you have a raised border on the header and then a sunken border on the track, it looks kind of strange. But this also looks a bit strange. So I don't know exactly. I guess we don't have to solve this particular aesthetic issue right now. It's just it's kind of chewing at me a little bit. Well, that's probably okay. So let's not overthink this. Let's just commit what we have made here. And yeah. So let's add everything. Show a fixed add a fixed row headers, track headers to the timeline view. The architecture here is a little bit convoluted. I ended up copy pasting or making my own copy a new container widget, timeline container, using based on no, that works similarly to GUI scrollable container widget, but has two subwidgets, a fixed header and the fixed header that only scrolls vertically, and and the whole timeline. And the timeline view that scrolls on both axes. Yeah. It would be nice to generalize this mechanism eventually and move it back into the GUI, but for now, let's go with a special widget for Profiler so we can continue iterating on the GUI. Sure. So, well, now I didn't rebuild, I think. Yeah, so there are a bunch of things I would like to do next. But I think we're gonna end the video here for today because I'm running a little low on time, and I think we have achieved some very nice progress. And I'm really happy with the direction that this is going. Some of the factoring is not great, but it's stuff that we can improve. We've definitely made huge progress on the usability of this program, I think, and that's very, very awesome. So this would be the page load, I guess. Yeah, and then I wonder, like, if you click in between the tracks, we should probably still move the cursor, because right now it doesn't move because it's considered like you have to hit one of the tracks in order for the cursor, in order for the mouse event to get handled. It's definitely not good usability to not handle it anywhere. Anyway, that's going to be it for today's video. So if you made it this far, then I thank you for watching and for hanging out. I hope that you saw something interesting. I think it was really fun to do, felt almost like one of those more old school videos of mine where we just kind of mess around with GUI and find our way to something nice in the end. And I thought it was really, really fun. I'm really happy with it. So I hope that you liked it as well. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you next time. Bye.